For years ago, my life unraveled in ways I could never have anticipated. The night everything fell apart is still etched in my memory. I had been carrying a secret for months, convincing myself that I could keep it hidden. But secrets have a way of surfacing, and when mine did, it destroyed everything. I had been married to Mark for 12 years. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and soon settled down to build a family. Mark was everything a husband and father should be. Steady, reliable, and always putting his family first. He was the kind of man who would get up early to fix things around the house or stay up late helping the kids with their homework. But over time, our marriage became routine, and I found myself feeling trapped and unfulfilled. At the time, I worked as a marketing manager for a medium-sized company. That's where I met Evan, my boss. Evan was charming, confident, and had a magnetic presence that I found impossible to resist. What started as harmless flirting soon escalated into a full-blown affair. Initially, it was exciting. Secret rendezvous, stolen glances, and late-night texts that made me feel alive in ways I hadn't in years. But as the months passed, the excitement faded and guilt crept in. I knew I was risking everything. My marriage, my children's happiness, and the stability that Mark and I had worked so hard to build. I told myself repeatedly that I would end the affair, but I never did. Deep down, I knew it wasn't love. Evan was just an escape from the dullness of my life, and I was selfish enough to keep taking it. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening, and I had told Mark that I'd be working late. He had grown suspicious over the past few months, and that night, he decided to surprise me at the office. I was with Evan in a compromising situation when Mark walked in. The look on his face was unforgettable, rage mixed with a profound sense of betrayal. Without hesitation, he lunged at Evan, punching him repeatedly. Security had to pull Mark away, but not before Evan was badly injured. Mark was arrested on the spot and charged with assault. In the aftermath, I tried to reach out to Mark, to apologize, to explain, to do anything to make it right. But he wouldn't speak to me, and I couldn't blame him. His family and friends turned their backs on me, blaming me entirely for what had happened. I had shattered Mark's life, and in doing so, I had torn apart our family. Our children, who were just 8 and 10 at the time, didn't fully understand what had happened, but they knew enough to blame me. They couldn't comprehend why their father was suddenly gone, why he wasn't there to tuck them in at night, or why their home was filled with so much tension and sadness. Their resentment toward me grew, and every attempt I made to reconnect was met with rejection. They held me responsible for the nights they cried themselves to sleep, for the anger and confusion that had replaced the joy in their lives. With Mark in prison, I had to step into the role of a single parent. But it wasn't just about handling the logistics of everyday life. My children didn't want me. They blamed me for everything. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't repair the damage I had caused. Their hearts had been shattered, and in their eyes, I was the one who had broken them. Mark served 4 years in prison for the assault. Throughout those years, I carried the weight of my mistakes, knowing that I had destroyed not just my marriage, but my children's sense of security and trust. Now he's out, but we're still broken. My kids have never forgiven me, and the life we once had is gone forever. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without feeling disgusted. The affair ended immediately, but the damage had already been done. Shortly after everything came to light, Evan, the man I had the affair with, was transferred to a different branch, and I never saw him again. It didn't matter, though. The consequences of my actions lingered long after. My husband Mark spent 4 years in prison, and those years felt like an eternity. Each day, I was constantly reminded of everything I had lost: a loving husband, a stable home, and the respect of my children. During this time, I attended therapy, hoping it would help me come to terms with what I had done. But instead of finding relief, the weight of my guilt grew heavier with each passing day. The loneliness was suffocating. My friends, unsure of how to deal with the scandal, distanced themselves from me, leaving me isolated. I tried to keep the household running, making sure my children were taken care of, but their coldness toward me was unbearable. They didn't need to say anything. Their indifference cut deeper than words ever could. When Mark was finally released from prison, I had no idea what to expect. I thought perhaps we could at least have a conversation, or maybe find a way to co-parent for the sake of the children. Deep down, I even held on to a small, foolish hope that somehow, someway, there might be a chance for reconciliation, though I knew it was unlikely. Mark returned to a world that was completely different. He, too, had changed. Prison had hardened him, and I could see it in his eyes. The warmth and kindness that once defined him had vanished, replaced by a cold indifference that frightened me. When he came to the house to see the kids, they ran to him, full of excitement and affection. They barely even looked in my direction. The pain of seeing them so happy with him, yet so distant from me, was almost unbearable. I knew in that moment that whatever bond Mark and I once had was gone, perhaps forever. The months since his release have been incredibly difficult. Mark is trying to rebuild his life. And though we don't speak directly, I've heard through mutual acquaintances that he has found work and is making an effort to move forward. The kids spend every other weekend with him, and I can see how much happier they are when they're with him. I've tried to reach out to them, but every conversation feels forced, like I'm speaking to strangers rather than my own children. The resentment in their eyes is clear. It's as if they're waiting for an apology, one that I know could never fully repair the damage I've done. Now I'm alone, truly alone, and I know that this loneliness is my punishment, one that I fully deserve. The home that we once shared is now just an empty reminder of everything I've lost. My children may never forgive me, and I can't blame them. They watched their father's life crumble because of my choices. I know that I'll never be able to undo the pain I've caused, and I'll never be able to return to the life I so carelessly destroyed. Some nights, I wake up hoping that everything was just a bad dream. I roll over, expecting to find Mark beside me and my children asleep in their rooms. But then reality hits, reminding me that I am the architect of my own misery. The love I once had is gone, and in its place is a void that I fear nothing will ever fill. I am left alone with the memories of a life that I let slip away, one reckless choice at a time.